Hello, welcome to Calculus Lesson 3. In this lesson, we talk about inverse functions. A better way to learn inverse functions is to do some examples. Here is an example. You have a given function, y equals 2x minus 1. How do we find the inverse of this given function? So we go ahead, solve for x. X, you move the negative 1 to the left-hand side and divide by 2. So x is y plus 1 divided by 2. Then you change this x to y and change this y to x. Change x to y, change y to x. And you have this. Y equals, compare this. Y equals x plus 1 divided by 2. This y is what we want. This is the inverse of the given function y. The inverse of this y is here now. And to avoid the same label, y here, y there, this y is the inverse, we write this way. There is a negative 1 at the corner. Now this means it's the inverse of the original function. So we write the inverse of y is x plus 1 divided by 2. So this is the inverse of the given function y. Next example. The given function is y equals square root x plus 1. We square the left-hand side and square the right-hand side. I got y squared is equal to x plus 1. Then exchange the left-hand side and right-hand side. And then I isolate x. In other words, I want to write x in terms of y. So this is what I have. X equals y squared minus 1. Then, just like the other example, change x to y, change y to x. And then this y is what we want. It's the inverse of the given function y. So we write this label. The inverse is x squared minus 1. And this is our answer. Second example. Given function y equals 3 to the exponent 2x minus 1. We rewrite this using logarithm. So take logarithm on the left-hand side and also on the right-hand side. So logarithm y is logarithm this part. But according to the properties of logarithm, the logarithm of this is the exponent multiply the logarithm of 3. So it's 2x minus 1 times log 3. Then I divide the whole thing by log 3. And I write 2x minus 1 on the left-hand side. And I get this. 2x minus 1 equals log y divided by log 3. I want x. So I move minus 1 to the right-hand side. It becomes plus 1. So I have 2x is equal to this. Now log y divided by log x can be written as logarithm y with a base 3. Okay. Once I have 2x, I can find x. So divide everything by 2, I get this. And then I change x to y, change y to x. Then this y is what we want to find the inverse. So I use the inverse label here. So the inverse function is this. And this is my answer. Next example. Y is logarithm base 5, 2 minus x. I change the logarithm form to exponential form. This base 5 goes to power y, 5 to the exponent y is equal to this. This is how you change logarithm to exponential function. So this is the exponential function. Then I want x. So move the negative x to the left-hand side, becomes positive x. And move the 5 to the exponent y to the right-hand side, so I have this. X equals 2 minus 5 to the exponent y. Change x to y. Change y to x. Now this y, change x to y, this y is what we want. It's the inverse function. So the inverse function is 2 minus 5. Now remember this y is now x. So 2 minus 5 to the exponent x. So this is my answer. Next, let's do some practice questions. Let's have some practice. The practice is to find the inverse. So given the first practice question, y equals 3x minus 1. So you do your best to find the inverse function. I gave you the answer here. This is the answer. Try your best. The second practice question. Y is x to the power 3 plus 2. Just like the first one, you do your best, and I give you the answer. Number 3. This is a given function, and the answer is given here. This is the inverse function. Number 4. Given function here, the answer is here. Number 5, given function, and the answer. Okay. Try your best to practice this. Okay. I want to make some remarks. When you learn inverse functions, you need to consider whether the inverse means you will change the original y to x and change the original x to y, and the y at the end, the y is your inverse. Now, when you do inverse, you will ask the question whether my inverse is a function or not a function. Then you need the definition of function. What is a function? Yeah. You have a relation to start with. A relation means you have x and y together in a relation. And whether this relation is a function or not, you need the definition of a function. The definition is that if you give x a number, then you calculate the value of y. If you get only one value of y, this is a function. Sometimes you get two possible answers for the y. In that case, you do not call this a function. So, when we deal with inverse function, we need to check whether the inverse is a function or not. Then when you check that, sometimes you need a restriction. Now, this is not discussed in this lesson now. We will discuss in some other lessons. Another thing is, if a function is given, you can draw a graph. And then you find the inverse. So the inverse can also be, by doing a table values, you can also have a graph. How are the graph of the given function and the graph of the inverse function related? That is a topic we will discuss in some other lessons. So here in this lesson, it is just to find the inverse. Whether it is a function or not, we discuss somewhere else. And the graph, how to draw the graph, we discuss it somewhere else. So that's the end of today's lesson about inverse. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.